The folks at OBSBOT have once again put a combination of quality and value into a pair of newly released webcams, and it's going to be beneficial for 3 groups of people. I'm Jason Hoffman. My goal is to help you have the confidence to just press go live. Those 3 groups of people that will be helped by this combination of value and quality in these 2 new webcams include folks who stream their online gaming sessions. And I know that may not be part of the audience that I normally have, but understand this. When you want to put that insert of your face over your stream, these little webcams are going to be a great resource for you because they're not going to hog a lot of your computing power from your streaming computer. The second group of folks that's going to greatly benefit from these 2 little cameras is going to be folks who are running older equipment. For example, I have a 2017 iMac in my office. And when I use that computer to record myself, sometimes I do there, I like to use one of OBSBOT's webcams. But when I use one of their 4K webcams, it bogs that little computer down so much that the recording is oftentimes very glitchy. It jumps, it skips, the audio and the video both struggle to keep up because it just can't process that 4K signal that's coming. Even though it's wired, even though it's plugged right into the USB-C port, it just can't keep up with that much data being sent by, say, an OBSBOT Tiny 2 or Tiny 2 Lite even. So the OBSBOT Tiny 2 SE and the OBSBOT Meet SE are 2 new webcams that are going to give us a full HD webcam and AI power. We're going to have some AI features in both of these webcams that are going to keep our online presence very, very good. I've been using the Tiny 2 SE in a lot of my conference calls recently because I like to have the pan, tilt, zoom ability when I'm on a conference call, when I'm on a consultation call. I like to, when I reach for something that's out of the frame, for that camera to follow me. And so the ability to have a full HD signal on a Zoom call or a Skype call or a Google Meet call, even a FaceTime call, I like to be able to have that other camera. I can bring it up to eye level instead of having to look down to where my laptop is or where my iMac is. I can use it to track me as I may move about the office to gather different things that are, I need to zoom that back out. Whoa, go in the wrong direction. Come on now. I suppose sometimes I do talk with my hands a little bit too much. Let's look at some of the specs for each of these cameras. Now, I'm switching back and forth between the 2 of them as I go through this recording so that you can have a view of what each offers. I'll begin to overlay at some point which camera is which. I don't want you to know at the beginning of the video, but I do want you to know before it gets too deep into it. But we're going to have a 1/2.8-inch CMOS sensor in both of these cameras. Actually, the specs for each camera, they're identical on both of those. We've got effective pixels are 2 million effective pixels. We've got a 78-degree field of view, and we're going to be able to take a full HD 1920 by 1080 image, video image at 100 frames per second. And then all the frames per second from 60 down to 15, all the normal ones that you would expect. And then if we can use a 720 resolution shot, we can go up to 120 frames per second. So I like the options. I like the ability to have different sets of resolution and frame rate. But it's going to be in a package that your computer can handle because it's a full HD, not a 4K sensor. We're going to have some digital zoom on both of these cameras. Our digital zoom, of course, will degrade the quality of the image the further we go in, but to go 1 1/4, 1 1/2 digital zoom to give myself just a little bit of framing, that's a great feature to have in what we're doing with our Zoom calls or with our game streaming sessions. We also have both autofocus and manual focus, and we do have HDR support on both cameras. As a matter of fact, I have HDR turned on on both of these cameras as I'm shooting this video today. So looking back and forth between the two cameras, if you haven't already seen it, let me just tell you that the view we have right now is the OBSBOT Meet SE. It does give us some AI framing, not necessarily tracking, but it does give us a group mode in the console. I can turn on the auto framing, and I can do upper body, I can do a single close up, or I can do group mode so that it expects to see somebody else walk into the frame, and it will move, it will zoom or crop to the point where we get more folks into the frame. It will fit everybody that is within its field of view, that 78 degrees we talked about. And then we have the Tiny SE. That is the camera that's going to give us a pan, tilt, zoom head on the top of it. It's going to allow us a few more features in its tracking ability. For example, it will do standard or motion tracking. Standard is a little slower. Motion tracking is a little bit faster. And then we have all the different areas that it can track. I can let it track upper body. We can go headless if I've got something here that I'd like to show and cut the head out of what we're doing if it's a little bit lower. We can do lower body, so it will scan on down. And if I were standing at a distance from this, there we go. You can see me again. That's the Meet again. We'll get back over the Tiny in just a second. If I were standing, it would go lower body here for us, so it can show that part. And then we'll get that back up to normal. But it will also do hand tracking. Check this out. So turn on hand tracking, and it's going to start looking for my hands. And if I gesture over here, or if I gesture, oh, come on back. Yep, there it is. If I gesture over here, it's going to look, it's going to turn to where my hand goes so that it keeps that in view. Maybe even pretty low. That's about as low as it will go without catching an obstructed view from its own base. So let's turn hand tracking back off. Actually, let's turn it back on. There we go. And get me back into a frame here. And it will also do group tracking as well. So the ability to have all these different tracking modes with the OBSBOT Tiny SE is a great, fully featured little webcam, full HD webcam. And just so you know, and there's no question about this, the OBSBOT Meet SE that we're looking at now is a $69 price tag in the United States. There's some details about the price in other countries that will be included in the description. There's some things with import taxes and taxes there that will drive the price up a little bit if you're not in the United States. But here in the States, the Meet is going to give us a $69 price tag, and then the Tiny SE is going to, that was the Meet SE, the Tiny SE is going to give us a $99 price tag, which I find to be remarkable for the features that we have in this device. Again, I've used this for some of my consultation calls, and it is a very quality picture that I'm sending whenever I do those Zoom calls or those Skype and FaceTime calls. Now, the third place that I think this camera will be incredibly useful, and actually where I'm going to use it this spring, is as my on-screen shot for my baseball live streams. Because this camera is not going to really tax my control device to the point where I worry about how much processing power it's having to use, I'm going to run this into whatever device I'm streaming with. If I'm at home and I'm doing my at-home setup for baseball, I'm going to use the OBSBOT Tiny SE webcam as my shot when I'm doing some play-by-play in between innings when I need to talk or do sponsorship spots. I can put myself on camera, and this will plug into my iPad, and I'll still be able to use it in the Mevo ecosystem, because you can use a UVC camera. You can use that plugged into your iPad. If I'm using a console like the OBSBOT Talent or like the YOLO box, I can also plug it in there and have use of it as well. For that face-facing shot whenever I'm doing my play-by-play or my announcement and sponsorship readouts. It's going to be a great little addition to my baseball live streaming setup. Where could you use this? Where could you use a $99 or a $69 webcam that has some AI features to it, that also is a full HD webcam? Could this little device up your live streaming game as well? Let me know in the comments.